So one of the first things that I always notice about Act 4 and maybe the play in general is what it's doing with particularly with the female characters. Goneril, Regan, Cordelia. Like I said before, tragedy is for Shakespeare a very male-oriented genre, right? Like these plays are about men typically, whereas the comedies you're going to see a lot more lines for the women characters and a lot more interesting stuff for the women characters. But in Act 4, things get a little bit more interesting for the women characters. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but there's quite a focus on Goneril and what's happening with her husband and all of this stuff. So I don't know, did you guys notice anything about the way the play wants us to see, or I don't know, what sorts of comments does the play make about these women and the way that they behave? Any images associated with them? Did you notice anything in particular about Goneril or Regan or Cordelia?
I just feel like these two daughters like more became like the Cinderella sister, like
Yeah.
kind of their view.
Yes.
And they are not just like don't like their father, they fight each other too for the who's that? Edmund, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they both want Edmund. Yes, exactly. Yeah, the Cinderella thing, right? Like, sure, it really becomes prominent here, and I mean, it's deliberate in some ways. Like I was saying at one point, Shakespeare loved to take these old stories. So when he's writing, like stories like Cinderella that are so familiar to us now, were familiar to him too, but nobody had written them down at this stage. So it wasn't until I think the 18th century that the French guy named Perrault started writing down all these stories. And before that, they were just oral, right? Just circulating word of mouth. So Shakespeare would have grown up hearing these stories, and then he takes them and he puts them in his plays. Like plagiarism, kind of.
There's a funny thing when like Regan's husband died, I didn't notice, like I only know like the guy just stopped him, like stop. Is that right?
It's Cornwall we're talking about, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, who dies?
He died, and it really makes me think about Romeo and Juliet. I don't know, it's a part of Shakespeare or not, like the part of Romeo's brother, his brother or friend, I can't remember.
I think it's his cousin, Mercutio, right?
Yeah, they just fight, and the cousin of Juliet killed his friend, and he just killed Juliet's cousin. And it's just that people always die like that. When he get hurt, he just like, I'm okay, are you okay? I'm okay. And when they come back like 5 minutes, oh no, he's dead. And just like, so fast.
Yeah, it's very sudden. It is, yeah. And then
when this thing happens, it looks really fine. I'm okay, everything's fine.
Yeah, but no. No, it's not. Well, and that itself is kind of part of the almost folktale feel of it, right? That these kind of incredible things keep happening. Yeah, it does. That's what makes it feel even more like a kind of Cinderella story, right? Like
I really feel like, because when we read the book, we don't have that feel. But actually, I think maybe when the actor get out and come back, it's maybe a real long time in the story should be like that. When we read, we just don't have that feel.
Yeah, I mean, there's kind of a sense of just it being so much that it's difficult to believe, right? Yeah, like the sisters are so evil that they do seem like something out of a fairy tale. Yeah. William, do you have any thoughts on the sisters? Are they too evil for you, or did you think they were great? Or
well, I guess like back to the idea of like one portrayed in Shakespeare, it's kind of like this is like kind of different that like working and they're like trying to like planning and like plotting behind everyone's back and all that, which is kind of like unlike what is like expected.
Yes. Yeah, I agree that in many ways they are not what we expect, particularly female characters to be like. Yeah. And that's like how they're criticized too. Like Albany, that's his problem with Goneril, is that she doesn't act naturally, right? Like this is not what we expect. I agree. It's not what anybody expects. So I'm just looking at a couple things here in Act 4, Scene 2, around line 30. He doesn't greet her when she gets home to the castle. Also in Act 4, we get 4-7. It's the last scene of the act. I'm just going to flip over there. So this scene, a lot of scholars refer to it as the recognition scene, because it's when Lear comes out of his madness and recognizes his daughter. It's the scene that I cry over every single time I read the play. It doesn't matter how many times I read it, right? But it's pretty interesting because when he starts to come out of his madness, he doesn't immediately recognize himself.
Yeah.
But he does recognize Cordelia.
Yeah.
So
That's so sad.
yeah, it's so sad. It's so sad. But I'm just looking at. I'll just read a little bit, and then you guys tell me what you think. So 4-7, around line 53, you have some cause. They have not. No cause. No cause. Oh,
That's so sad because like he feel like he's a dream, you know. He can't believe he met Cordelia again, and he just feel like he's so scared and like, don't laugh at me. I think you are my daughter, right? That feel.
Isn't it heartbreaking?
Yeah.
I know. Yeah.
Not a really good father, but he's still a father. You know, someone don't want to be the father, but he still love his daughter actually.
Yeah. Yeah. He absolutely does, and she forgives him immediately. So yeah, a real heartbreak. And the other thing I wanted to notice, like as I was reading this, did you guys notice the language? Like, how easy is this to understand? This dialogue that they're having, like it's very straightforward, right?
Yeah.
Like this is not the complex Shakespeare that we know and sometimes don't love that much, right? It's not hard, right? Like anybody could understand this. It's what we see as quite plain English. I know you do not love me, right? So very much like monosyllables, very direct, very plain. That's King Lear. Like I was saying, how every Shakespearean hero, tragic hero, has his own way of talking.
Yeah.
This is Lear, right? Like it's very direct, it's very pared down. And honestly, that's part of what makes it so difficult to take, right? I think because there's sort of it's almost like there's no hiding from the pain of this,
Yeah.
right? Like it's so in your face, right? I know you do not love me. And she just says, no cause, right? Shakespeare sometimes at his best is when he's doing this, when his language is this easy to understand. Yeah. And so I am. Like, how do you beat that? That's so good, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So this, very famous scene, the recognition scene. As he pulls out of the madness, he starts to figure out who everybody is for real this time, right? Yeah. Okay.
That's good because it's really hard to read Macbeth talking.
Yeah. Well, Macbeth has like really complicated diction, and he uses like at one point he says the multitudinous seas incarnadine.
Because like at the middle and the part behind, like he started like talking to the witches and the ghost. You know, that's really confusing. You know what he's talking about.
Yeah, and that's his language, right? They all have their own way of talking, right? And Romeo is like totally overblown. You're like, oh, just relax.
Like read a poem or something.
Yeah. Well, Romeo and Juliet literally at one point speak to each other in a sonnet.
I think that's because they are young.
Yes, it is because they're young. Yeah, they speak like young people. They absolutely do. So Lear's final speeches, his final moments of his life. So what did you guys think about the way that he ends? Like by the time he dies, what has he gained? Or what has he finally learned? Or how much has he changed? Anything in those speeches or elsewhere in this act? Does it tell you anything significant about the growth of that character? I know we've been tracing it throughout the play, but where does it end up? Like where does he finish? I don't know. What are your thoughts on what becomes of this character by the time he dies at the end? Let's talk about that for a minute. Is he the same guy he was at the beginning?
No, I'm not sure. Is that his first time like lost some guy and can get him back at first time? I don't know because I don't know where's his wife. but I think because he lost everything almost at the first to third act, and Cordelia just find him, and he had his daughter again, but they just lose, and Cordelia just dead. It feels like he had everything at the beginning, and he just lost everything, but at least he has Cordelia, and Cordelia dead. It's like the second chance he has his daughter, but he still didn't make her live.
Yeah, so and maybe that's why it's such an unbearable tragedy, right? That
Yeah.
everything is gone, but then he finds her again, but then that's it, right? Like it's just too much, right? It's just too
Yeah, because at the beginning he don't think Cordelia loves him, but he just going step by step. He realized the three daughters only Cordelia is the only one he loves him in the three daughters,
Yeah.
and he just like, okay, I don't have anything, but I still have Cordelia. I will live with her, and I will love her. She loves me, and we can live. I only need is my daughter, and his daughter just dead.
Yeah, even if it's in prison, right? He says,
Yeah.
let's away to prison, but we'll have each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yes, total devastation. Anything else you guys notice about how he's developed by the end? Did you notice anything, William, about differences in this character by the time he dies at the end of the play?
Well, I guess it's like he finally, or it's kind of like, okay, well, he finally like he finally like he loves Cordelia.
Yeah.
It's like he realizes that like she was the only daughter that he actually like that cared for him.
Yeah, and I hear you both talking about love, and I think that's what it comes down to, isn't it? That what he has learned is something about the nature of love by the end of the play. Yeah, he has learned what it really is to love, and what it really is to be a father, which is sort of makes me think back to the Johnson poem, "Oh, could I lose all father now?" But in Lear's case, he has gained father, right? He thought of himself in the beginning as so kind a father, but now he actually is. He has actually come into his own as a father, like Arthur, right? It is that similar moment to Arthur that you mentioned, why where he phones his son right before he dies. I mean, it's the same scene essentially, right? Yeah, exactly. So when we first looked at him, he was thinking about love in material terms, quantitative terms. So this much kingdom for this much love, right? The sister who lets him keep 50 nights must love him twice as much as the sister who lets him keep 25. Right? It's all parceled out, right? But that language, like by the time he dies, we don't hear that language anymore, right? The trying to quantify things, like that's gone. So that's a big difference in terms of what he thinks love is. So the question he asks at the beginning is, who is it that can tell me who I am? But that question, he abandons it, and he stops trying to ask, to somebody tell me who I am, and tell me how much you love me, and tell me all these things about myself. That goes away. And instead, he realizes the more important question is Cordelia's, "Sir, do you know me?" So that recognition scene of 4-7, knowing her becomes more important than knowing himself. So that what he understands about love, I think, is that, hey, other people matter, right? And that's something he's been learning all along.
Yeah, because in my school, like last month, we have like a topic to talk. Like, if there is a button, if you just push it, and you can know the guy you want to know how much loves you. It's like a score, like 0 to 100 something. Maybe have negative, I don't know. But that's hate. But where you push it, it's like we talk about that. And that's because like at the beginning, Lear just asked everyone, "Do you love me?" And they just like give him talk like his daughter. Like, "I love you," like, and Cordelia just can't say nothing, and he's just the guy who gives the point. He's listen to the speech and just give point. Okay, you love me, maybe like 90%. That's great. that feel, but actually the people should have the feeling. Love is like another point. You should know, not just listening. You should feeling like people love, but Lear don't have this like ability at the beginning. He can't feel, so he was really like afraid because he can't feel that thing. So she just wanted listening, like, you see you love me, and I just believe that.
Yeah, that's right. And it's some question of whether he cannot feel love or he's afraid to feel love or what. But yeah, he does create this sort of mechanism where he doesn't have to have that emotion, right? He can just create a numerical system to make it work. But by the time he dies and we see these speeches at the end, it's very different, isn't it? So he is a self-centered demander of attention at the beginning, and at the end, he becomes the only Shakespearean hero to die talking about somebody else. So every other hero has a big speech about himself.
Oh yeah.
But not Lear. So he, as far as I know, he's the only one. And so his dying speech is, "Do you see this look on her? Look her lips, look there, look there. So he's actually directing his attention onto Cordelia. And the very moment that he dies, he's talking about her, not himself. And that's the only time that Shakespeare did that. So yeah, it's pretty fascinating, right? Like everybody else, Hamlet and Othello and all those guys get a speech about myself, right? Yeah.
Because Lear is like the different way with Macbeth. Because Macbeth, he's a good guy, like good soldier, and he's brave and honor at the beginning, and he just want the power, and he just became colder, you know, because at the beginning he killed the king, and he just like, oh my god, I can't accept that, he's a good king, I can't kill him. And that's Lady Macbeth like, you already do that, you need to do that.
Yes.
And till the end of the Lady Macbeth suicide, and when that's his wife, and I think Macbeth is a little bit old too. I don't think he's really young, maybe like 40 or 50 something.
Middle aged, I would think.
And I think his wife at least married him like 20 years, maybe at least.
Yeah.
And when Lady Macbeth suicide, he just like, oh, poor woman. Okay, let's just fight with them again. You know, he just like, he don't even care about her.
No, yeah, he says, yeah, William, since you haven't read this one, another spoiler for you when you do read it, but yeah, when his wife dies, somebody comes and tells him, the queen, my lord, is dead. And he says, she should have died hereafter. There would have been a time for such a word, meaning I can't even feel it anymore. Like, I don't even care. My life is so full of horrors that this doesn't even mean anything to me anymore. So a very different scene from Lear, who feels things more acutely at the end of his life than he ever has before. Okay? Like now is the time for the profound grief that he couldn't feel at the beginning, right? It's like an opposite path, isn't it? Like Macbeth moves towards lack of feeling and Lear moves towards more. Yeah, that's a really interesting contrast. Yeah. Oh, maybe we'll have to do Macbeth. Yes. Okay.
That must be the book the school will read.
Macbeth, probably, yeah. Usually schools do Macbeth and Hamlet.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah, we have Hamlet in junior.
Yeah, at least, yeah, we do that a lot here in high school. So yeah, we won't bother with Hamlet. I'm sure you guys will read that in school. Yeah, so then, yeah, it seems like he learns enough to improve himself by the end. Of course, all he does is die. So I'm not sure how, that's part of what makes it so sad, though, right? That he becomes a better man in the moments before he's done. Yeah. So you feel a tremendous sadness about that you might not feel with your Macbeth, for example. Yeah.